Welcome back to Kevin Pollak's Chat Show. As always, I am your chat show. Thank you for joining us. We have a double feature. If you're picking us up after the fact on your iTunes or the various portals you may be finding the show on, this is, of course, a individual show. But as we shoot them, they are back to back. So we're a little of that mind here at the show, right, Sammy?
You betcha, pal.
Thanks, buddy. We saved the Ask Kevins and the Larry King game for the second half, so I'm going to jump right in. If you ever have a question for myself or anyone here on the staff at the chat show, off camera or otherwise, write to contact@kevinpollakschatshow.com, and we'll be happy to get to your questions if they're worth a good goddamn. All right? Super. This one comes to us from Rosella W. Is that right, Dr. Chen?
Yes.
He's given a big thumbs up. Has any star/celeb ever declined to be interviewed on the Kevin Pollak Chat Show? Not a bad question, although embarrassing for me, isn't it? Your computer's not buffering. That was me. Has any celebrity or what was it? Star declined to be on the show?
Well, I was a little bummed we couldn't get Richard Nixon.
Nixon said, "Go fuck yourself, I'm dead."
He was not interested.
No, he just went Rigetti.
Rigetti. He just said Rigetti. I'm trying to think.
We could get Nixon's head.
Ooh, that would be awesome.
Like
I'd
how they
rather
have it
have
on
Disney's
Futurama.
head. Disney's head on ice.
It's gotta be like that.
Where are the blacks and the Jews?
You know it's his birthday today?
It's whose birthday today?
Disney, Walt Disney's birthday today.
Is it
Yeah.
really?
How old is the head?
Yeah, he was born 1901. His birthday is today.
109. Happy birthday, Walt's head. That's the answer to the question. Happy birthday,
Happy
Walt's
birthday,
head.
Walt's head.
Did you think of someone who
No,
told
I
us
was
to
going
go
to say,
fuck
I feel
ourselves?
like everyone you or I have ever said, hey, you should come on the show, they always go, oh, I'd love to.
And then we get blown off later.
Right, so the real question should be, who has said they will appear on the show and then keeps ducking you?
Yeah, and I think the top of that list would have to be Grace Jones. This one is from Lady Diode. I absolutely love the Kevin Pollak Chat Show, and I'm so thrilled for you hosting $1 Million Money Drop. Do you have any concerns about your doing Chat Show and Money Drop? Do you foresee any problems in handling both? I hope not. Well, hope in one hand and crap in the other, and see what happens. No, I can do anything actually, other than a non-scripted show in prime time. So I'm free to do everything else under God's green sun. Or Earth. Yeah, so it's every Sunday afternoon live at 3 o'clock on the West Coast. Do the math elsewhere. We will come to, unless there's some sort of holiday. The next couple of Sundays will be here, and then there'll be the Christmas and the New Year's. But otherwise, we're here for you, man. The $1 Million Money Drop debuts on your December 20th, 4 nights straight, 6 hours, loaded up, ready to go. Curious about it? All right. We just so happen to have a 24-second trailer for the damn thing, potentially loaded up. Let's see if the boys are ready. Here's a look currently playing on the Fox network, should you be curious.
This $1 million is yours. You can touch it. The question is whether or not you can hold on to it.
$1 million, 7 questions, excitement to the last drop. The $1 Million Money Drop. The week-long event premieres Monday, December 20th on Fox.
I can't even explain why it was so much fun as jobs go. But I will say, if you like games, it's how they got me. It's how they hooked me. They explained the game to me, and I said, yeah. The game is sick, crazy fun. So that would be my encouragement to watch. And somebody, I think it was our very own Emily Goodwin, who said, I saw a trailer for a commercial for the show. You're barely in it, like 2 seconds. It's not how you launch a show.
And she wants to be your personal assistant.
And she wants to be my personal assistant. A good point. That's
I don't even know where that went.
That's not how you launch a show. They're not launching the Kevin Pollak Show. Trust me. It is an amazing game.
The only people interested in the Kevin Pollak Show would be my mother and Jerry Lewis.
And Jerry Lewis.
And Jerry Lewis, apparently.
Which we'll get into more. And now the last question from Ask Kevin. It's from Critty 28? Sure. Could be Critty. Rough Riders platoon station in Iraq is now low on morale. Can you give them a shout out? It will be printed and sent to them. Kick some motherfucking ass, please. We love you, we respect you, and we absolutely cheer your every breath and effort on our behalf. Yeah, kick some ass and leave prints would be my suggestion, please. Hoorah and Semper Fi. Hoo-ah, if you will. Oh boy, I can't see shit. Give me that trophy.
I think they'll do brackets that say Al Pacino.
Yeah, we had, exactly. We did have one of the contestants had 4 tours of duty as a pilot in the Iraq, one of the contestants on the $1 Million Money Drop, and she was my favorite because she had her husband there and she just kept saying, get tough, Cookie, or go home. It was really kind of great and far out. And big shout out. And some other great people, Drew Carey and a few others have been trying to lend a bunch of support to the Rough Riders platoons. So you certainly have our love and respect here at the Kevin Pollak Chat Show. And come home safe, please, immediately. That will wrap up the Ask Kevin. Now let's see the graphic. Did they run the graphic? They probably did. Oh, look, I'm sitting back. There's a chair, and then you hear the sound, Ask Kevin. That's what they say, right? Ask Kevin?
It is Ask Kevin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't want anyone to misunderstand. No. This Larry King game, this particular viewer of the show, Brian Bajolin, because that's a name, wrote this Larry King game. So, long Hanukkah story short, I'm glad it wasn't a hemorrhoid, but I have no idea how that dreidel ended up there. Gronkson, New York, shalom. Is that a place, Gronkson?
Not that I know of.
I wonder if that's how you say it. So, Mr. Bajolin, I'm sure we have your shirt size. We'll be sending you a T-shirt from the Kevin Pollak Chat Show.
No mugs.
No
Done.
mugs. No more mugs.
Done.
Stop
Ooh.
ordering mugs from the Chat Show
Forget
store.
it.
It's a pain in the ass to ship these
The
fucking
mugs are
things.
done. There's 80 in your home, and that's where they'll stay.
That's where they're staying,
I
please.
talked to the guys at the P.O. box. They said, forget it. It's like
It's enough already.
Yeah.
Right? All right. I'm very excited to introduce my guest now because, like a few guests that have been on the show in the past, we met briefly and then got to know each other a little bit around a poker table. And that's where I like to meet people because then I can try to figure out what the hell goes through their mind while they're playing the game. And then it helps me because it's such a great little foreshadowing of life itself. And I felt that he was kind of a gentle spirit who had the soul of an artist and heart of a lion. And I just thought this guy's energy was cool and then did a little research and thought, yeah, this guy needs to be on the show. And he's now starring in a television show on the Sci-Fi, which I'm a pretty big fan of, called Haven. And but you've loved this guy's work from 24 and dating back to Buffy. Oh God, it's a first and sixth season of 24. I want to talk about that being brought back to that particular show. But one of the things I'm most curious about is that he recently had, I believe to be, he'll correct me if I'm wrong, his first experience at Comic-Con as a star of a show that those peeps would very much care about. Eric Balfour, thank you so much for being here, sir.
Thank you very much.
Can we jump into the Comic-Con thing?
Yes, we absolutely can.
Was it
jump
your
into the
first time?
Comic-Con. It was my first time at Comic-Con.
Great. Do share.
This is it's a beautiful place, Comic-Con. Never before have I been somewhere where it is a universe of geekdom.
Yeah.
And in the most wonderful way, I mean that because you hear that saying, let your freak flag fly.
You've heard that your whole life.
I've heard that my whole
Since
life.
there was a teepee on your back.
Since we grew up with teepees and sweat lodges and hanging out at the SRF monastery and I grew up with some kooky people. But this is a place where their freak flags fly so big and loud, you can't help but just be excited about it.
They catch you up in their energy.
Yeah, it was amazing. And we had this sort of magical experience. I arrived down to San Diego, and I was there with a movie that I just had that just came out called Skyline. Mm-hmm. And we pull into San Diego, and on the side of a building is the name of the movie, the size of, I mean, I think somebody said it was like
10 stories, whatever.
10 stories
Ridiculous.
high, and you know, the whole building wide. It was incredible. And the next morning, we get on this bus with me and the cast and the producers and the directors, and they take us into the back entrance of this giant complex auditorium.
The way they took Elvis.
Yeah, the way they took Elvis. Yeah, there was
the
me,
kitchen.
and there was me, and there was Elvis, and I we were all really excited because none of us had seen anything from the movie yet.
Oh, really?
So we get backstage, and on stage is Nicolas Cage, who's promoting something, and it was one of the most surreal moments because we're sitting backstage, and we're sure there's probably like 5,000 or 6,000 people in the auditorium listening to him speak, and the cute little half-size woman from Juno is backstage doing somewhere. I can't think of her name.
Ellen Page?
Ellen Page, thank you. I mean, wonderful actress. She's just, half a size person. And, you're hearing Nicolas Cage on stage, being, what you imagine Nick Cage would be, and he's going, I think he was talking about Gone in 60 Seconds. He's like, yeah, I did this movie because I like to drive fast. And I got to drive fast. And you're just going, oh my God, this isn't real.
Yeah.
And he comes off stage and you shake hands, and there's Brett Ratner, who's one of the producers on our movie, and we're assuming that now the auditorium has cleared out, and there'll be a few hundred people in what we find out is the biggest hall at Comic-Con. It's the biggest auditorium.
That's the big one.
It's Hall H, which I thought that had something to do with like hemorrhoid medication. I didn't know.
Someone's dorm room, maybe.
And we go out on stage as they've just shown this long trailer for the movie, and it's 7,000 people strong now. And it was insanity. It was the coolest experience.
It must have been.
And these people were so gung-ho, and they were excited. And we had everyone from people who were ecstatic about this little $1 million movie that looked like this big, huge action sci-fi movie to, the favorites now in hindsight are the fanboy crowd.
Yeah.
Who immediately, hated us. What is this? Is this, Independence Day 2, and we don't want to see this, and they already made this movie better with Will Smith, and
with a budget.
Apparently I was the poor man's Jeff Goldblum, and Donald Faison was the poor man's Will Smith. I personally always thought I was the poor man's Harvey Fierstein. But that being said, they were all, we had all of it, and there were people who loved it and hated it, and now looking back, all those Independence Day fanboy haters who were like, what is this Independence Day, and we don't want to see this. They saw the movie and then went, what is this? This isn't Independence Day at all. We hate, there was no making them happy.
Yeah.
But
there is no making the fanboy happy unless they decide.
Yeah, it's got to be really on their own volition.
Yeah.
They don't want to be sold anything.
No, they don't.
Which is cool. It's
But still, well, talk to me a little bit about the origin of the Skyline, because well received or otherwise, the fact that this thing was made for, as you say, around $1 million,
yeah,
and is bigger than the great outdoors. I mean, they must have come to you and said, here's what we're thinking. And then they went in and showed you some of their special effects?
Yeah, the guys who directed the movie, Greg and Colin Strauss.
Brothers.
The brothers Strauss, as
Right.
they like to go by. Which is really kind of cute, because they're kind of the nicest, sweetest, like, they're fanboys themselves. Really.
Are they?
And
well,
so
that's cool.
This title, the Brothers Strauss,
right,
is it's like the ultimate dichotomy. It's like what, jumbo shrimp or something like that.
Yeah. They're little nebbishy Jews, you're saying?
Yeah, almost.
Yeah.
But they invited me to their offices, this place called Hydraulics, which
Their
is
special effects.
and they're a special effects house, and they did Avatar in 2012 and Iron Man 2, and
Right.
I've seen a bunch of posters for a Jack Black movie coming out where he's a giant person, not like the Juno woman, Ellen Page. Thank you. And they take you to their screening room and they show you
mind-blowing
this reel of effects they've done and things they've accomplished, and then they cut a trailer together for Skyline that they did with home video cameras on the roof of their building.
It's
and
kind of that Cloverfield thing, maybe?
It was a little bit, that. It was
because they hadn't really shot the movie yet.
No, they hadn't shot anything. All they'd done so far is done a bunch of what they call pre-visualization. Try to say that 3 times fast.
That's not easy.
It's a pain in the ass word because every interview I had to talk about it and I could never say it right. I barely got it right that time.
And none of us would know if you did.
No, you'd just be like,
because we're not familiar with
it.
The
sounds,
word.
it sounds like some form of, Aramaic or something. But the inspiration was initially Paranormal Activity.
Right.
How do you make a smart genre film on a budget? Now, personally, I hated Paranormal Activity. I thought it was a great concept, but after like the 3rd day of this couple not getting the fuck out of this house, I wanted to bash their skulls.
You get a little impatient.
Yeah, I couldn't get behind them at that point. And then when they finally, had it, they got done in at the end, I was just happy. I just was glad they were gone. So that was the idea, was how do we pull this off? So these guys, I mean, I got to hand it to them for that. I don't care how well your own company does or how much money you have in the bank. When you start pulling out your own cash to do anything creatively, and it really is.
But they had the freedom too.
They have the freedom to do what they wanted. There were 5 guys on set making decisions. Some of them better than others, but so they got to do what they wanted, and they wrote it and shot it in a way where it was economically feasible to do this. And then all of the effects they did themselves at their offices for free,
Yeah.
And it's turned out well.
But how unbelievably flattering, honestly, that they wanted you to sort of carry the ball in such a big way for this movie. I mean,
well, interestingly enough, I've been an actor now 18 years.
You started very young with the Kids Incorporated.
Yes.
Yes.
The Disney Channel was very kind to me as a child. It was my first job, and so I had gotten to a point where I was just happy to have a job most of the time,
sure,
to be able to pay my mortgage, to take care of my family, and so I stopped thinking of things as the big break or the thing that was going to change my career. I was just happy to be working.
You don't have to be in town that long or start a career too long before you start to think in terms of it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
And there's no corner.
No,
as it turns out.
There isn't. And so I read the script and went, and before when I first talked to them, they wouldn't let me read the script.
Wow.
There was this big confidential thing. And so when I read it, I was sort of astonished, going, am I going to really get to do all of this and be this guy in this movie? And it was overwhelming in some ways. And I kept talking about it when the movie was getting ready to be released, because now all of a sudden we had Universal and Relativity, and there were billboards everywhere, and, it was a huge moment for me because in some ways, sadly, I think I'd given up the idea of hope a little bit in that regard, in that, I was happy that I was able to work, but I guess I'd stopped believing that there was going to be another plateau or echelon.
Another level. Well, in some ways, I think we're taught to be like surgeons, that you can't get emotionally involved in your patient.
I totally understand it. I don't know how to do that at all.
It's really impossible. How do you not care? How do you, even for your team? That's my downfall. I want my team to win.
Yeah.
And I become blind, and I'll work on something, and they'll go, a friend, will say, I saw that, and it's really, really shit. And I'll say, it can't be shit. You don't understand the team that worked on it. We love each other.
Yeah, well, that's an odd thing. It's an interesting thing because I actually had a family member say that about my TV show earlier this year when it was on. And somebody, one of my mother's cousins or somebody came up to me and goes, so Eric, I saw the new TV show of yours. Mm-hmm. It's not good. I don't like it. and you go.
You kind of have to smile at the ridiculous honesty.
Yeah, and I get it. People, I don't think people realize how emotionally attached we are to all of this, and how much every time a show gets canceled or a movie doesn't open well or you read something. The only way I know how to be an artist is to invest my entire heart and soul into something. And whether it be an audition or something I'm filming, and I can't stand it. And fortunately, I've now surrounded myself with a team of people who no longer ask me to do this, where they ask you, look, you've done your part. You went on the audition or you did the thing, and it's out of your hands now, and you just have to move on and don't think about it. I'm like, I can't do what I perceive as good work by doing that. I can't emotionally separate myself from a part that I really want. If I'm gonna want this and do a good job in the performance of it, I have to fucking care a lot and give. And yeah, you know what that means? When I hear that recently I got to go meet Ron Howard.
Right.
And it was because of this movie that was coming out, and it created this sort of momentum, and he's got a project coming up.
Right.
And for me, I shut down a few days of my life to prepare for that moment.
Right.
Because I think the other thing that you learn when you've done it long enough is it's not to say that other opportunities won't come when things don't work out, but you better be prepared and tenacious to be on the ball and be a fucking professional. I mean, so many people, they do a movie or they do something, then they go fuck off for a month. They go, I'm going to go on vacation. I'm going to go.
No.
Who are you?
Yeah.
I don't know you. I don't understand you people, I guess is what I'm saying. Because, people ask me, well, what don't you want a break? Don't you wish you had some off time or downtime? And you seem very similar in this way. This thing that we're doing, what you're doing right now, what you do in films, what I do in films, what I do on my TV show, it is who I am.
Yeah.
It is what I love. If I wasn't doing it, I'd unfortunately probably be doing it in some little theater that sat 50 people and they charge $5 a show for, because this is my hobby, this is my love, this is my passion. I don't like watercolors, I don't play golf.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so,
Or playing poker.
Poker is another subject. Poker is a means of supplementing your income at times.
But you're right. There's no, the whole idea, don't you need a break, is so absurd to me, because I'm sorry, but what we do is a break also. We end up having to work ridiculous hours sometimes, but when I'm working on a set and I see the crew working around me, and I'm thinking, those are the people who are working for a living.
And they are, yeah. I mean,
my God, are they working for a living?
Hey, I've been caught complaining about my turnaround, or if I get off at 10 o'clock and not having to come back before 10 a.m. or something. But these, the crews of the guys hauling gear, and maybe getting 6 or 8 hours sleep a night if they're lucky. And the most exciting part is when you meet guys on the crew who are legitimately excited about the creative process. Right. We've got a couple cameramen on our show who I absolutely love working with, because they'll come up to me, during scenes and go, hey, on this next take, I'm gonna do this a little bit, and I'm gonna transfer over this way, and if you want to, when you spin that way, it might look really cool. And I get jazzed off of that because they're excited.
Yeah.
And they're not making nearly the money we do. They don't get nearly the fringe benefits that we do.
Of course not.
And, there's no way to do what we do and not care about it. And I think that's what you're seeing a lot of today, is you see people who, they see the end result.
Right.
They see stardom or fame.
Yeah.
But, I don't know what it's really worth if there's no substance behind it. I mean.
Yeah. Well, good, because that just means...
it means a lot when you end up with a mug with your face and your chacho on it.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Even if the color of my face is a little strange.
It's sort of a pinky salmon.
It's a salmon. It's a salmon.
Yeah,
I always say there's an odd tan, but you're right, it's a salmon.
Or you've been eating a lot of carrots.
Well, that's none of your goddamn business. Let me ask you about Kids Incorporated. First of all, was this...
Kids!
Was this a workplace sitcom set in one of Kathy Lee Crosby's sweatshops?
Basically, yes.
Kids Incorporated. You see what I did?
It was a sweatshop environment. It actually was kind of like a sweatshop environment. It was an interesting time in my life. I was like 14 years old, and I was a little bit lost in some ways, and I had found a crew of kids that I befriended in Hollywood. I grew up here, and so at the time we were
Were you misfits?
Well, a little bit.
Were you drifting towards the dark side?
You know, the dark side was the night somebody convinced me that I could make good money as a prostitute.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna need more of that story.
Yeah. Well, so this was the time of my life. You know, we would sneak into clubs. You know,
Sure.
there was actually a gay club on Santa Monica Boulevard called Arena, and they would let us in at 14, 15 years old if we would take our shirts off.
Would they? I
yeah,
find that hard to imagine.
Yeah, and
What's
you know,
in it for them?
You know, we had nice nipples. You know, young 15-year-old nipples.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
All right.
But so, you know, I was doing a lot of dumb shit at the time, and fortunately, I had enough smart people around me to keep me from totally crossing to the dark side, I guess, as it were. But yeah, there was one night where a bunch of these kids I'd been hanging out with had started prostituting themselves, and I was, you know, pissed off enough at myself and my family and hated myself enough at that moment where I went, yeah, I can go stand on Santa Monica Boulevard and I can jerk some dude off. I don't care. I hate myself anyways. I'm a piece of shit. And I got out there and I was on the corner of Santa Monica, just east of Highland.
All right.
And I stood out there for about 20 minutes. And the first car that rolled by was like this, you know, yellow Datsun thing, you know, and this little dude with a strange, like, gray mustache. It's like a salt and pepper mustache. That's all I remember. Kind of like my sweater.
Sure.
Like my sweater. And he pulled up to the curb, and I went, and I ran. Oh God, I probably ran all the way back to the valley. I was just waiting for the area code to change. It's like, where's 818?
For those of you outside of California, that would be about 20 miles.
Yeah, but yeah, so fortunately I never did that, but it just so happened that I ended up in a place where they were holding auditions for this TV show, and somebody came up to me because I was rehearsing with a band I was in at the time. I grew up playing music, and they said, "Hey kid, you wanna come audition for a TV show?" And I was like, "Big fucking pedophile, get the fuck away from me."
Yeah. Didn't we see each other?
Yeah, I was like, no, we're serious. So I went into this other room and they handed me some pages and
Right.
they asked if they said, you know, can you see your profile? I'm like, what does that mean? I had no idea what to tell you. And for the camera, what that means is you turn to the side so they can, you know, see your profile. So I had the lines and I turned to let them see my profile and then started to read the lines like this. And they went, stop. They're like, why are you facing that way? I'm like, you told me to face that way. Like, no, but now turn the other way. I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know.
You were just a kid.
I was just a kid. So I went through days of these auditions, and there were thousands of kids, and it was dancing and singing and then doing scenes, and I was whittling down through the
callbacks.
What do they call it? Cattle call?
Yeah.
Cattle call. And on the fourth day, somebody came out and read a list of names, and had every list of names, people who could go home. And on the fourth day, my name was on that list, and I was heartbroken. And I left. And maybe 12 hours later, I was at my grandparents', I think. And I got a call that they sent home the wrong Eric.
Jesus.
And at 14, I was still attitude. So I was like, nah, forget you guys. If you made that mistake, I'm out of here. But they kept calling for several days, and I ended up doing this TV show. And in some ways, I think it in some ways probably saved my life, because otherwise, I don't know where I would have ended up.
Right.
And it was a great environment, and you know, it was all summer long. It was like summer camp, and we'd show up in the mornings, and we'd sing, and we'd dance, and we'd perform, and it truly made me fall in love with being a performer, because I got to do it all, and it reminded me of, you know, you think about the Fred Astaire's and those guys, and there was a time when if you were a performer. You were a performer. You sang and you acted and you danced, and you had to be able to do everything.
Yeah.
It was a fun way to be. It's something I really would like to get back to.
That sort of training is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Also, there must have been a sense of camaraderie. There must have been a sense of.
I literally was just with one of my castmates this morning at my mother's house, who now has 3 of her own children,
Right.
Who are beautiful and adorable, and yeah, these are relationships that have stayed for life. And we've been through, happy times and sad times, and obviously the death of my dear friend Brittany Murphy, and it was a family build because we were children, we were kids at the time.
Fergie?
Stacey Ferguson was on the show. She was on the show before me. She and Martika, who I dream about Martika. if anyone knows who Martika is, there was that song Step by Step, Heart to Heart. Well, how's the rest go? Toy Soldiers. Yeah. Then that left, right, left, they all fall down. Anyways, she was cute for me.
The Fergie thing came up in your dossier because you ended up in one of her videos, so it was easy to assume.
Well, yeah, apparently I ended up in one of her videos.
Oh.
It's not true. I don't know who is in the video that looks like me,
I
or
love
if there is footage of me that I don't know about in one of her videos.
I love this.
But I've heard it several times over the years, and I've never gotten to ask her because I've seen her numerous times and just never remembered to ask at the time.
Right.
But yeah, I'm not in one of Fergie's videos.
Someone probably just connected the dots that you were both somehow involved in the Kids Incorporated.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but no, you're not the first person to say it because people are dead set on the fact that I'm in one of her videos, and I don't know what video it is.
I don't know why you're refusing to acknowledge that.
I know. Well, I'm hoping it was the one about the bumps, the humps, the lumps, the lady. I don't know what it was, but the lumps.
Originally that song was about umpires in baseball.
I understand.
Originally it was umps.
Umps. My lovely, right.
Lovely umps.
My
and
lovely,
it wasn't
lovely umps.
selling. It wasn't.
No, well, I think that's not the first time that the Black Eyed Peas have done that. Didn't they have a song called "Let's Get Retarded"?
Originally.
Which, apparently didn't fly. Then they called it "Let's Get It Started," and it was
Suddenly
a huge hit.
You've got to figure out the correct verbiage.
I think from a musical career, that's probably what I need to do is write an off-color song and then just change it to something nice.
And then hone it in.
And people already recognize the tune a little bit.
Right. They like it and they don't know why. We'll talk a little bit about Blessed with Soul, if you can.
Wow, you really?
We're not fucking around here.
Oh, man. Okay.
Again, you're very young at this point.
Yeah, no. So, out of Kids Incorporated, I can feel my ears getting hot. Me and Haley Johnson, who was one of my castmates, who was the young lady who I was referring to, was at my mother's house this morning, who was like my sister. And actually a very famous choreographer now, named Brian Friedman, who's become this sort of prolific choreographer. And our dear friend Brittany Murphy started a singing group together. And I have to take responsibility for the name. It was my fault. I was really, at the time, I was like 14, 15 years old, and I was really obsessed with like Belle Biv DeVoe and Color Me Bad. And so we had to have a name that was like an acronym and sounded, pseudo soulful, hence Blessed with Soul, and then you can use BWS. It reminded me of BBD, Belle Biv DeVoe. I actually had overalls at the time that were, remember when kids were wearing like Guess overalls? I had Guess
With
overalls.
With the one, you would just do the one side.
I did the one strap. Well, I actually was doing both straps because I had airbrushed on the front bib a little DJ going wiki wiki wiki, and down one leg it said Belle Biv DeVoe, and down the other leg it said Do Me, which was one of their big hit songs. I don't know if you're.
I'm 105, so no.
Yeah, probably not a BBD connoisseur.
I missed the whole.
But so we ended up going around to a bunch of like malls around the country and performing in malls, and one of those times we were just talking about this morning, the band had a manager of sorts, some strange dude, and I don't know how we got hooked up with him.
He glommed on.
Yeah, somehow, and we were in Spokane, Washington, and the only reason I remember it is because of this event. We had done a little show at some mall. We'd gone back to the hotel, and this this 40-year-old manager guy had invited these like two 25-year-old kind of ditzy girls back to the hotel, and had me at 15 in the hotel hotel room with him, while he convinced these girls that they should model in their underwear for us because they might be right for our next music video, which obviously didn't exist and was never going to happen. And I'm 15, going, I don't know, I was just terrified of these naked women. And wasn't going to say anything either because
it was a show.
There was naked women.
Yeah.
And I was alone at the time. I didn't have like a guardian with me, and he was sort of supposed to be watching out for me.
He was your guardian.
Haley's mom was on the trip, and at some point they couldn't find me. It was like 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and they couldn't find me, and so they were all roaming the halls looking for me. And then they finally showed up at this guy's hotel room.
Hello.
And there I was, sitting in the corner, with these 2 half-naked girls and the band's manager, and that was, I think, the last time we ever saw him.
He was removed.
Yeah, it was, it was bittersweet,
Well,
I'm glad that I was being protected. At the same time, I wish they had waited, I don't know.
For something
at that point in my life, probably another 3 minutes.
Yeah. That was all it was going to take.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Kids Incorporated is an experience that sort of sets you on a path also to have a life choice, which at some point I'm always interested in when researching our journeys. Where was that point where everything got set on one track for you? And it seems like that was the experience that not only brought you from going down towards the dark side, but also...
It was interesting. Yes, in some ways that was definitely the definitive moment. But and even still since, I've always been... I've always wanted to try lots of different things, and I've always been fascinated by different forms of expression and different forms of art. And it wasn't until I met a man named John Homa, who was an acting coach. And I met him right about the same time. And it was interesting. My relationship with my father was difficult growing up. He was a really, now looking back, I think I understand him better than I did then. He was a really fascinating guy who in some ways, weird, I never kind of thought about it till right now, in some ways was not dissimilar from me in the ways that he was searching in his life.
Right.
And his search took him to all kinds of strange places, and my mother too in some ways, but he ended up at one point when he was about 19 years old living in an SRF monastery down in San Diego for about 9 years. And if you're unfamiliar with what SRF is, it's Self-Realization Fellowship. It was founded by Paramahansa Yogananda. And it's sort of a form of, meditation and self-visualization. And so when he had me at 29, he had just come out of the ashram and had reconnected with my mother that he knew from high school. And I don't know that he was completely ready to be a father, or if that was his intention at that point. Mm-hmm. But so that being said, we had a difficult time when I was growing up. And interestingly enough, we've now started to really begin to connect. And it was very, God, there's something, I'm doing off on tangents. It's interesting because my grandfather growing up was my life. His father.
Right.
Which was very odd because I didn't have a great relationship with my dad. And I had this amazing connection with his father, who was my grandfather. And I realize now my grandfather was a different person when he was my father's father.
Right.
And I'm now starting to see my father become a different person than he was when he was my parent.
Right.
But so I met this man, John Homa, who was an acting coach, and in some ways he became a father figure for me, and more than just an acting coach.
Now you were how old?
I was about 15.
Right.
And he really started to, really through example, show me what it meant and what kind of man I wanted to be in my life.
Right. And
what, what the strength of a man is, and how it can be used for good, and not for fear or dominance, and I really embraced him, and he sort of took me under his wings, and he showed me the craft of acting, as it were. Mm-hmm. Not so much from an esoteric kind of ethereal place. He broke it down to me as a science, and then it became fascinating because it became more like chess.
Right.
When I started to understand and look at scenes and look at scripts and characters and go, well, why is this person doing this? And what type of moment is this that is exactly the same as in every other person's life and moment that we all do? And then I started to fall in love with this craft and really started to study it through him. And then over the next several years, I found that this was something I loved and realized I was getting good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I was getting good at it was because I wasn't making things up as I went. I was relating things to my own life and my own experience. And I was able to look at characters, and sometimes characters that were unlikable, or did malicious things or bad things or whatever the case may be. But I always got to look at them as being human beings. And so the first real opportunity I was given...
And he taught you to do that?
And he taught me to do that, yeah. And the first real character that I was able to do that with was several years later, when I was about 23 or 24, when we did the pilot for 6 Feet Under.
Right.
And here was this character who was broken and abusing himself, and
He was a meth addict.
he was a meth addict,
Right.
and doing any stupid thing he could, and then faced this horrible tragedy of his younger brother's death. And the character could have been played as a real bastard, but to me, I didn't see him as all that dissimilar from myself. He was hurt, and he was human, and he was flawed, and he was fallible. And that was the moment when somebody finally acknowledged that in me and said, I get what you're doing with that character.
Well, in the case of Alan Ball, who coming off winning an Academy Award for
American Beauty.
American Beauty, decides to take that trophy to television and have control over his baby,
Yeah.
cash you in a pilot, and you apply what you just said, and he says, yeah, you're going to have to stick around a little while.
Yeah.
And brings you back. That is the acknowledgement. That is the confirmation. That is the validation.
Yeah. And so for me, that was the beginning of the journey, and that was sort of, going, this is what I want to do.
Now then there's no looking back.
And then there was no looking back, yeah. And then that, that has spawned all these other things,
Right.
in wanting to write and produce and direct and
Well, you get the acknowledgement from the right mentor, and it changes everything.
Yeah.
I remember something as simple as I wasn't terribly athletic. My people tend to own the concession. But there was one coach who just took a liking to me, like a PE coach. It wasn't even a sport per se. And just little things about his sense of humor that I was able to connect to. For some reason, he liked Cheech and Chong. And I'm just a 14, 15-year-old who is smoking pot, and
Right.
Cheech and Chong are gods. And for some reason, he got it. He wasn't a pothead, but he got it. He got why it was funny, as opposed to being an authoritative figure saying this is wrong. And then he had these little things like just rounding up the basketballs from the class. He'd say, you know what, can you help me round up these balls? I'll give you a couple of bucks. And it was just the way he said, I'll give you a couple of bucks, that was instantly, of course he's not going to give me any money, but he's going to say it each and every time he's
Right.
going to ask me to do something. Exactly. It just made me laugh. And then it was, here's a teacher who's not only taking an interest, but trying to make me laugh.
Yeah.
As a way to connect with me. So it is those people who come into our lives
Yeah.
and sort of validate something in us that gives us the courage to say, holy shit, I can do this.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it became that pursuit of excellence. I actually heard Stevie Wonder talking about this in as it pertains to music recently,
Right.
and he was actually, oddly enough, on Larry King.
Uh-huh.
It all comes back full circle. But Larry King asked Stevie Wonder, "What is your favorite song you've written?" And the obvious answer was, "I haven't written it yet." And he said, "That's why I keep writing songs."
Holy shit.
Because I'm always trying to write the song.
Greatest answer ever for the worst question
Yeah.
that one could ask.
Yes, but he said, I'm always trying to write the song that affected me the way somebody else's song did,
Right.
that I heard.
Right.
And for me, I think
can't
as
get
an
that.
actor, that's what I'm always trying to do. I want to get to
That's
that moment
interesting.
where I have that performance
That
or that
transcends.
opportunity that affects me the way that Daniel Day-Lewis did in The Name of the Father.
Yeah.
Or Gary Oldman did in State of Grace.
Holy shit.
I mean that movie to me is still, I mean, everybody in that movie, from Ed Harris to Sean Penn to Robin Wright Penn.
Robin Wright.
John C. Reilly. I mean, it was just amazing.
That is performance clinic.
Yeah.
That film. And Gary goes to a place that you just think that they didn't hire an actor, they found a guy.
Yeah. Well, True Romance.
Well, yeah.
True Romance. I mean,
Holy
how the fuck did this guy do this? Because it's not, no pun intended. It's not like you or I doing this, who grew up here in America, in one neighborhood or another. We have a frame of reference on this world. Here's a guy who's, you know, at the time he must have been 40-ish years old.
Right.
So his sort of pop culture reference was different than what was going on at that time. He grew up in London, you know, a totally different world, and to be able to pull off that guy in that movie, you know, you sit down, have yourself some motherfucking sushi. I think this motherfucker got a carry on the world, and who knows? Maybe you don't. It was.
Where does that come from?
Where does that come from?
Who was he studying? You know what I mean?
I don't know, man. Drexel, yeah, Drexel.
he must have been.
That was Drexel, man. I ain't got no hold over Alabama. He was amazing. But yeah, so that's
those performances, though. They inspire you. So the thing with Stevie Wonder, and that you find in yourself, speaks to a sort of higher place of authenticity, because what he seeks, what you seek, is the unattainable. Because you can be inspired and blown away by another artist in a way that you will never achieve yourself. You can get a sense of, wow, I came close to the ballpark that Gary Oldman once walked through. Because you don't have that level of self-awareness. It'll never be there.
No,
you know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, I guess it's probably true.
But that's great, though, because Stevie Wonder, with all he's achieved, has still never reached it.
Yeah.
And that means it's pure. It isn't just something to say to a stupid question.
No,
it's real.
I mean, he could have just as easily gone, you know, My Sharia Moore is my favorite song I've written.
Yeah.
And left it at
He could have
that.
given a literal answer.
Yeah.
But holy crap.
Yeah, it was very cool. It was very cool.
Well, what's also cool, though, is that is something that you latched onto and carry with you now. Yeah. Because it spoke to you. Yeah. Seriously. You didn't just watch a great artist be surprising or even flippant. You actually said, yeah, that's how I feel, Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
It was an interesting moment, because I don't know that I'd ever pinpointed it that way. I knew exactly what he meant when he was talking about music, because I've definitely felt that feeling of going, I want to write a song that, because I do it with bands that I've been in, or my band that I'm in. Like, we've sat around and I go, guys, we got to write a song like this. This song is amazing. We got to write something like this. And I had never thought about it, though, in equating it to my acting career.
Right.
And I realized that's the goal. Is I want to have that moment where it feels so visceral, and I'm so in it, and I can look at it from the outside and go, that was it.
Well, now you've written music. What about writing something that you can either?
Well, it's something I've been very fortunate, and I wrote my first screenplay 2 or 3 years ago, and it was really it was almost halfway autobiographical. It was about being a teenager growing up here in Hollywood and all of the insanity that goes along with it, and in some ways about the kids that I had met along the way. And I realized that I really loved doing it. It didn't come as naturally as other people I know who write. They can sit down and write a script in 3 weeks, and it's like bang, bang, bang. It's difficult for me to get from A to B, but I just sold a TV pilot to a company or network called the Fuse Network. That's a music channel, and they're now doing scripted programming, and they're letting me write and direct a pilot for an idea I had that's in a musical-based comedy. So I'm gonna get to do a little bit of everything that
you've been training for.
That I've been training for and love, and so I'm very excited about it. And you never know. This process that we go through it's fascinating. I think I finally come to terms with the idea that there's just good days and bad days.
That's it.
And it's never going to be one steady climb upwards, because it's amazing, you know. One week, you know, you just found out you got a movie, and you've got a movie coming out, and you did this great interview, and things are going amazing, and you're like, oh my God, finally everything's working out. And then the next week, no, that movie fell through, and the financing's gone, and by the way, you're getting audited, or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's always this sort of bounce.
Yeah.
And so the entire process of how this business runs is, yay, congratulations, you're gonna get to make a pilot. But that doesn't mean it's a TV show yet. And then you're gonna make a TV show and it's gonna be put on the air. But that doesn't mean it's gonna stay on the air.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating. And it's interesting, because I used to think for a long time that I had this sort of idea that I was always afraid of failure. And I used that as my motivation. You know, that was my hunger of, I have to get up. I don't want to fail. I don't want to lose. I don't want to, miss an opportunity. And I needed the angst of it and the pain of it.
Right.
And that's how I succeed. And it was interesting. Somebody pointed out to me. They're like, well, why do you think you need that anguish to do it? I'm like, because that's what keeps me hungry. I'm like, I don't ever want to be one of those people. And I still don't. But there's those, the people that you meet that are living out of their van, and they're really not doing anything with their life, whether it be socially, career-wise, anything. They have no purpose, and they're just sort of like, yeah, man, I'm just, I'm hanging out, and I'm cool. I feel so good about where I'm at in life, man. I just feel good. I'm like, I'm just right here. I'm like, oh my God, you've accepted failure. You've
Right.
accepted that your life is going nowhere and doing nothing. And it wasn't until somebody pointed out to me that, don't worry, you'll never be that. You don't have to be pained all the time and anguished all the time to still have that same drive. And it was an interesting moment, because it finally made the ups and downs a little bit more manageable. So where I'd get up and, because even up until the last, couple of years, I'd have weeks where I'd be like, I don't understand. I felt so great last week and everything was going so well, and this week I want to kill myself. I contemplated it. I mean, I'd like go, I can't take the pain of this. I can't take the turmoil that's going on here. I want it to end. It would be easier to just end my life. And when I finally realized there was a way that fear is kind of this interesting thing, because fear can be very cunning. Our fear has this way of attacking us.
Oh yeah.
And it convinced me, this sort of negative entity convinced me I needed it. It was this evil sort of oppression on my life convinced me, no, you need me to succeed. And that was the sort of brilliance of it in a way.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I realized that, oh wait, I can still have all of this drive and all of my passion and energy without having this pain and anguish and fear of failure. And it's changed my career.
Good.
Because it's been now, this last year has been amazing. For every little step backwards, there's been 10 steps forward versus the other way around.
Yeah, you got to get the fuck out of your own way. No matter what you're doing, no matter where you're going, no one will get in your own way as much as you will.
Yeah.
Whether it's fear or insecurity or any of those anxieties that we put on ourselves in terms of, I'm going to fail. I can't fail. I mustn't fail. As opposed to, it's the old thing. It's the journey, not the destination. This is it. It's not a dress rehearsal. And
it's hard hearing that sometimes, man.
Well, it's impossible to hear it unless you believe it.
Yeah,
it's true. And you're right. Getting to that place that you can believe it is a breakthrough.
Yeah,
it does change. Yeah. Everything suddenly changes.
Well, it's that same moment when you realize, there's that point in your life where you realize you're actually in your life.
Yeah,
Because it's been happening more and more recently where you kept going, well, no, I'm going to wait and do that when I get there.
Yeah.
I'm going to go there later.
It's just got to get a little bit better.
And then
it's got to get a little bit easier.
Yeah. I'll take that trip as soon as I finish this and get here.
Yeah. I find you have to start writing checks that you can't actually cash.
A little bit. Yeah. A little bit. Because it doesn't mean you have to be stupid. It doesn't mean you have to be reckless.
It's called faith.
You have to have faith. Yeah. It's a perfect way of putting it. It actually is.
And by the way, It's just faith in yourself that it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
And I even grimace saying it because there are those who can't relate and therefore find fault in the notion. Who the fuck do you think you are that it's going to work out for you? You know, you have to remove that.
I find those people are not usually people who don't see the light at the end of the tunnel.
No.
They just don't know it's there in the first place. No. They're unfortunately sitting in like a black cave.
Yeah. But when you realize that this is your life,
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
may I please give you some more?
You know, if that is not indicative of what type of show this is,
Yes, sir.
how often does the
Yes,
host
sir.
actually refill your water for you?
We-
That should happen more often.
I'm trying to teach others
Yeah. See, this
who
is.
have similar situations.
I should probably stop faking that this was warm coffee or tea because somehow that seemed more.
No, they know it's vodka. I told them at the beginning.
Crystal skull. Crystal head.
I don't drink that often either, so it's fine.
Tell me about. I looked at some stuff online,
Was I nude?
and well,
I mean, you can.
I did not read the Colorado Kid, and I'm confused. However, let's just start with the neck of the woods where you find yourself working on this show, Haven, because holy shit, is it gorgeous!
It is a beautiful part of the world. We shoot the show
Nova Scotia.
In Halifax, Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
Even saying Halifax is not true. We shoot it outside of Halifax, Nova Scotia,
Yeah.
in these little towns called Hubbards and Chester and Lunenburg. And they're these very cool old fishing villages. And I got to be honest, the first couple months up there, I was going fucking stir crazy. I mean, you really have to get used to the idea that you are in a small, slow town. Because even Halifax, as much as it is a metropolis, it's not like a metropolis you or I are used to.
No, that word is not applicable
Not completely.
unless you've been in the suburbs of Halifax for a while.
Yeah.
And then Halifax
And
is
then
a
Halifax,
metropolis.
yeah, it's huge. It's a
Is that where the
massive-
time zone switches? Is that the Halifax?
Yeah.
That's where it goes 1 hour later.
Yeah, Halifax is it's 4 hours ahead of Los Angeles.
Furthest point.
Yeah.
I was in the Newfoundland recently.
Oh, were you in
And,
St. John's?
I was.
And so you spoke to people there?
Uh-huh.
Not to get a bar fight. Not to get. Want to get a pot of faggots? What did you? Excuse me? A pile of what? Want to get a pot of faggots? It turns out faggot is a pile of fish.
Yeah.
If you didn't know, but yeah, they
I thought they were doing Brad
Newfies
Pitt
are-
from
Well, it's not that
Snatch.
different. It's actually pretty, like the pikey accent is
Yeah.
pretty similar because it's the same idea. You know, pikey accents is sort of this weird mishmash of Irish and Scottish and English, and that's what the St. John's accent is.
Yeah.
It's all these people who came over on the boat.
Yeah.
And St. John's is the oldest city in North America.
Yep, I know that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you
I
go
was
to
screeched.
Did you go
I
to
was
the
screeched in.
Oh, really?
By the way.
Really?
I showed the film on this very show of me being screeched in. I had to kiss some fish on the face and,
Oh, wow.
and say a phrase and do a shot. And
I love it.
It was in the distillery where they make some great screech rum, but also Dan Aykroyd's Crystal Head vodka, which if you do imbibe with such things is damn tasty.
I'm more of a Jameson
Are you?
guy. Yeah.
You like your Jameson?
I like the Jameson.
Aye.
It's good. I like to drink it.
You
I
do?
mean, just on a way occasion. That's all. Just every once in a while.
How beautiful and magical and musical is that language?
I find that I often do it in airports. I don't know what it is.
I walk around as myself, and the Irish comes out of me
Yeah.
for no fucking reason.
I love going
Without explanation.
When I travel around the world, I love going to airports and putting on
And
different
pretending.
accents. I pretend.
It's the greatest.
Because you're traveling, you're in transit, you can't, you're not actually in the city, so
Yeah.
nobody could really, call you out on something. And I'll do South African accents, Irish accents, just I don't know what it is. I guess I should have been some kind of crook or grifter, yeah. But I love doing accents in airports. If you ever come up to me in an airport, I'll probably be doing a different one than my own.
All right. So the Haven, now,
Haven
we've
takes
talked
place
about
in-
where you shoot the damn thing.
Yeah.
But at some point, you have to age to 100 years old, and we're talking about 4 hours of prosthetic makeup in the morning, and then about an hour and a half after everyone leaves.
Yeah, that was my favorite episode of the season for me, because it was kind of it was a little bit of a dream come true to really get to jump into that sort of character stuff that all these guys that I loved did.
Yes.
Dana Day-Lewis and Gary Oldman and Sean
Right.
Penn. So in the episode, this woman has a curse. And her curse is if she sleeps with a man, it ages him to death. How sort of apropos to life in some ways. But so I got to go through like 4 different ages. Like started at like 50, then to like 70, and then to about 85, and then stopped about 105. And fortunately for my career and mortgage, they figured out how to solve it before I died. But it was really fun. It was really cool because it's weird. You always think you can do that stuff, or you hope you can do that stuff, and you watch performances of other people when they, especially like when you see like biopic stuff. Somebody like Val Kilmer becoming Jim Morrison or something like that. You're like, could I do that? I think I can. I hope I could.
Without it being a cartoon,
Without
making it real, and also aging. You for some reason we have this instinct that the voice turns into. Your voice is going to age and change, of course. But I don't know why we all go there first. I don't.
I found that I just had to. It just became an issue of my larynx getting less strong.
You lose your
As I
strength.
got really old, you just lost your strength.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that you sounded different. You just didn't. You weren't able to talk as strongly as you used to.
And where did you get that from?
I watched a lot of tape of old people, and there was. I watched a lot of tape of elderly people, and there was one thing I saw a man do that was really interesting. He sat with his hand like this, close to him, and it wasn't crippled in any way. It was just comfortable. It kind of and I asked him because he was I was watching somebody, and I said, why do you do that? And he said, I don't know why I do it.
It makes me feel comfortable.
Feels comfortable being he's like, I'm not as agile as I used to be. I don't flop around. He's like, so this is just, I know where everything is.
Yeah.
And I found that those little things, just because he played with it too. I mean, he knew it was there, and he'd play with it a little bit, and just little things that you just watch people do. I mean, it's the fun part of what we do.
How many episodes are you doing now with the show?
We do 13 episodes a season, and we just finished our first season, and we start back in April shooting season 2.
And so how much of a time commitment to go to Halifax and stay there?
It's about 4.5, 5 months out of the year.
Right. So when you were going a little cabin fever the first time.
Lots of trips to Toronto and New York.
Not that far away.
Yeah. That was how I survived it at first. And then, but then I started to embrace it. And I loved the water and the lakes, and we'd go, take boats out, and we'd sail. And so we found stuff, and it's like anywhere.
At some point you embrace the beauty and want to be a part of it.
Yeah, you find a rhythm. But yeah, I definitely, at first, it was a struggle for me. And it's weird because I've been fortunate. I've gotten to go live in other places for work for months, almost, a year at a time sometimes. But I've been, Toronto's not that hard. Toronto's a city like lots of other cities. And Toronto's a pretty cool city. I've gotten to live in Hawaii, New York. So I've gotten to spend time in Europe doing it. So that was easy. Just like I'd never really been sent somewhere that I didn't innately have an interest or desire to be. And so that was a challenge for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I tried to cause as much trouble as I could at first. I found myself in a lot of like casinos late at night, playing strange hands of poker with in Canada, there's still biker gangs.
Yeah.
Which I find silly at times. Like you hear about people talking about the biker gangs, and you're like, come on, biker gangs. And then you end up at a poker table at 3 o'clock in the morning with a bunch of bikers. And you start mouthing off to them, and you find out that they're just not kidding. They will actually tie you up to their bike and
drag you for a while.
Dump you in a lake somewhere.
We like to involve our live audience here, and I've got a couple of questions for you.
No, I do not choose, if this helps, I did not choose the style in which that my facial hair grows. This is all that grows. It doesn't grow here, and it doesn't grow any thicker here.
That is what you call a beard.
This is it. This is all that grows, and I just don't like to shave that often, so I just let it grow.
I wish people would shut up already.
I wish people would. And there's that one. I had nothing to do with the length of my face and that I look like a horse, so I'm sorry I can't help you with that one. It's just that's how my face looks.
I got no more questions.
Yeah, does that pretty much cover them all?
No.
Okay.
No, but it's nice to know where you go.
Yeah.
This one from the Facebook, from Christopher Rodig. This is a tweet 5. David Duquesne says T5. T5.
I love that dude.
T5 forever now. God bless him. 6 feet under or 24? These are Coke or Pepsi, no correct answer.
Okay.
6 feet under or 24?
6 feet under.
In front of or behind the camera?
Behind.
Dawson's Creek or the OC?
Dawson's Creek.
Nicely done. Criminal intent or NYPD? Blue.
Criminal intent.
And music or acting? Aha! Aha!
I take the 5th.
Yeah, right?
I have to.
Yeah, you can't.
I couldn't. I couldn't choose.
Right.
I couldn't choose.
What's next for the band?
That's a good question. You know, we started recording an album about a year ago, almost a little more, and the direction of the album just wasn't going the way that we all wanted, and unfortunately because of my schedule and life, we didn't know exactly where it was going to go. So we haven't done anything with it, and we still are just trying to figure it out. The project.
Again, it's the journey, not the
yeah,
destination.
I mean that's kind of what it is, and fortunately, we had the luxury of not having to make that decision and go, this is what it is. We sort of all just knew that when the time presented itself to create on that, we would. And
what
then,
about live gigs?
Again, I don't know. But you know, a lot of my energy has been put into this show that I've been creating. So
is there a
musically,
site though that if people want to follow the band's goings on?
For the band, yeah, you can go to bornasghost.com, and there's a little bit of music there still, and you know,
if
you can
people want
definitely check
to
it out.
keep
And
an eye
yeah,
on
you
it.
can always, you know, or you could follow me on Twitter, and I'll tell you where to look for
Are you
things.
enjoying your days on Twitter?
I have a very. There are days where I can't understand why I'm on Twitter, because I'm so self-punishing at times.
Yeah.
And I read every horrible thing that people say about me.
Oh no! Why?
I don't know.
What the hell's the matter with you?
I literally will sit alone in my bathroom and just go, yeah, that's exactly how ugly
You do
I
that.
am.
You sit alone in the bathroom.
I sit in the bathroom, but I'm writing emails.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
different.
yeah.
That's what
But,
you're doing in there for an hour.
I don't know. There's some form of weird, like, attrition to it, or catharsis, where I don't know why I can't stop it. But on the other hand, I do love the ability I now found with Twitter to connect with my, I don't want to call them fans.
There's a community out there,
yeah,
my friend, and yes,
and it's great, and you know that there is a responsibility I've learned that comes with it, and people, you know, they do start to
they'll let you know.
They rely on you and need you to some degree, and so you either accept that responsibility or you don't, and I've tried to, and I enjoy it. I love being able to communicate with the people who are interested in
Whatever the
what
hell
I'm
you're doing.
and
Yeah.
I try not to talk about my socks or, you know, what underwear I'm wearing or stupid things. I read Michael Jordan's tweets a couple times. I couldn't understand it. This is a guy, arguably one of the most famous men in the world, and he's talking about, I'm gonna plant some trees in my backyard. Any suggestions? Of all the things you could talk about in the world, all the causes you could represent, all the, you know, thoughts you could convey to the world, and positive outflow you could have, you dick around talking about, you know, what you're doing on your Sunday afternoon golfing. I mean,
yeah.
It's fun to be humorous, and it's fun to, if that's what you use Twitter for, then use it. If you're gonna go, I'm gonna use Twitter to make people laugh and bring joy into people's day, good for you. I'm not funny. So I don't do that, you know, and when I try to be funny, I end up crossing the line and offending at least half the people I'm talking to. So.
I just talk about Arby's.
You do?
Arby's is, see, I would take argument with that. I'm pissed off at Arby's.
Why?
What? I'm the mayor, so you can talk to me.
Of Arby's?
Yeah.
This Arby's down the street, so you
Okay,
can talk to me.
Here's my argument with Arby's. it's my same argument that I have with Wendy's.
Which is my other favorite fast food place.
So me and you, I don't know how we're gonna. Well, I mean, we can agree to disagree, but why? Why do you have to have square hamburgers? Why do you have to have?
Well, Wendy's, I don't get hamburgers. I get chicken. If I want a burger, I'm going to go to Fat Burger In-N-Out.
Talk to me about Arby's.
I don't. It's the whole thing. It's just
delicious.
I mean, yeah. If lard is delicious.
Lard.
Because that lean roast beef is so full of lard.
I would actually like to know how much actual meat is in that roast beef.
Is in the meat?
I don't think there's any meat in the meat. And I can see your face. I know this is
fascinated by this discussion.
I know this is painful for you, but I gotta. I mean, you know,
we're gonna have to save it for another show.
Yeah, no, but honestly, there are things that people should tell you. Like, there are things that people didn't tell me growing up, and I wish. Like, why didn't somebody tell me that when I eat beets, it would turn my urine red?
Yeah.
Because the first time I figured that one out,
you thought
I just about
bleeding.
had a fucking coronary.
Yeah, you thought you were going to the hospital.
I thought I was pissing blood. I was sure that I'd gotten in a fight or done something where somebody had punched me in the kidneys, and I was now bleeding internally because nobody took the time to tell me that beets turn your pee red. Arby's is bad for you. That was a long way around, but Arby's is bad for you.
Thank you. I could not think of a better way to wrap things up.
All right.
I was wondering
That's
what
what
you
I'm here
stood for.
Yeah.
We were a little all over the map, and at the end of the day,
yeah,
it is Arby's is bad.
Yeah. The one thing I do want to say,
yes, please,
because it is the holidays. If you're thinking of a gift for people, I would love to encourage people to go to www.fallingwhistles.com. Buy a whistle. All the money that the proceeds from buying these whistles goes to advocating for war-affected children in the Congo. And the symbol of the organization is the whistle because these young children are given whistles that can't carry guns. And they use the whistles to let the other soldiers know if there's enemies coming. And this organization is trying to get those kids out of these militias in the Congo. And it's a great gift for the holidays.
Thank you so much for that.
www.fallingwhistles.com. Fallingwhistles.com, yeah. And
thank you so
be a
much.
whistleblower for peace.
Thank
On that
you.
note,
thank you, man.
I've done my
No.
due diligence.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's lovely.
Cheers.
And good luck with everything else as well.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to see you again at Josh Warner's poker table.
I would love to see you there.
Yeah.
I plan on you taking lots more of my money.
You were throwing it around a little. It's not important.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Are you ready for your Larry King?
Yeah.
Bad Larry King impression? Let's see Larry reveal something and then go to the phones, the name of the city, funny sounding good. There's your camera, sir.
Good evening, America. I am Larry King, and I was with a Filipino hooker named Ming last night, and she wore gold tassels on her boobies. I will be right back with Chris from Hoboken.
Nice! Thank you, sir, very much.
Thank you.
Don't move. Stay where you are. Sit uncomfortably while I wrap things up for the folks at home. Thank you very much for tuning in once again. If you're catching up with us on the iTunes, continue to do so. If not, tell everyone you've ever met. We have some great shows coming up. Take a look at the calendar there. You'll see the Colin Hanks. You'll see Lisa
Andy
Kudrow. Andy Richter will be here in a couple of weeks.
Farrelly brothers.
The Farrelly brothers. We just landed those two knuckleheads. Very excited. Yeah, take a look at the schedule. Have yourselves some wonderful, happy Hanukkah out there to my Jews. And until next time, and as always, get out of my face.
He's all of the rainbows, but none of the rain. He's dry, but he's an alcoholic. He's hosting this train wreck again and again, and he wears a hat. He's